Hello and welcome back to the channel. I was out the other day riding the old bike with a group of friends and we stopped for a cup of tea, and the conversation led round to how do you bleed your brakes? Well, I use a method that was taught to me by my father 50 plus years ago. It's very basic really. It's cracking open the bleed valve, pressing down on the pedal, closing the bleed valve and looking for little bubbles of air in the rubber tube. If you're interested in how that method works, then go and have a look at one of my previous videos where I serviced the brakes on this old bike. The chap I was with though was talking about using a vacuum pump to effectively connect it to the bleed valve to draw the fluid through. And I know that that method is inherently flawed in as much that when you crack open the bleed valve and you're sucking the fluid through, it can cause a little bit of air to travel past the threads of the bleed valve, and you kind of get a false reading. You get little bubbles continually showing up in the tube. So anyway, these kits are relatively cheap. I thought I'd buy one, give it a go, see if there is really a problem with them, and if there is there some way in which we can solve that problem? Anyway, let's get into it and have a look at the kit. Okay, so opening up, what have we got? First of all, set of instructions, fairly basic drawing to how to assemble this kit for bleeding brakes. There's some words as well. I have to say the words are Chinese converted to English, not so great. Turning over, it also shows, because this is a vacuum system, you can use it also for testing out the manifold absolute pressure sensors on cars and motorbikes and so on, as shown there. Anyway, so in the lid we've got two fairly long pipes, two very short pipes, clear plastic, a bunch of adapters here, and these are various sizes of adapters that will plug onto the bleed valve. Down in the bottom we have a container which has a rubber seal ring in it. There's actually a spare seal as well. I think that's probably to go on to the brake fluid reservoir potentially. Put that there. We've got the vacuum pump itself with a little gauge on it, so if I put my finger over the end, it creates a vacuum very nicely. Boop, and just going to put that there. Then we've got a basic lid to go on the container, or the bit that we really want is this, which has got the two pipes in and out, pipe connector there. Now the way we assemble this, first of all, short pipe, put it on to here. There we go. That's going to go inside like that. To pump, it says. So we just need another pipe on there. That's going to then connect to the vacuum pump. Like that. Then we're going to need to put a long pipe on to the other side. And then we're going to choose one of these adapters just for now, and that's going to go like that. And there we are, it's assembled. So if I put my thumb over the end of this and fairly good vacuum created there. That's it ready. Let's try it on the bike. Okay, so this is the setup on the bike. I've taken off the side cover, exposing the reservoir for the rear brake, made sure it's topped up, and down the bottom there I've connected the vacuum pump onto the rear caliper brake bleed nipple. So we're pretty much ready to go. Okay, so here's the first problem. All of these adapters, none of them fit onto my bleed nipple. That's a standard size bleed nipple. So I've had to put the clear plastic pipe directly onto it. So we're just about ready now, and one thing I forgot to point out to you is just underneath here on this vacuum pump there's a little Schreiber valve that you can stop the process just by pressing that valve. That'll stop the vacuum and it will stop sucking the fluid through. So what we've got to do is I'm going to undo the bleed valve. Come on, there we go, that's undone. Just enough. Okay, that should work. Going to start sucking. Nothing's happening. Let's just open the valve just a little bit more. Okay, here we go, and I've got oodles of bubbles coming out of there. Loads of bubbles. I don't know whether you can see that. Let me get a close-up for you. There you can see loads of bubbles coming out. I'm keeping an eye on the reservoir as well. Now, potentially, that's all bubbles coming past the threads. Let me see what happens if I open the valve a bit more. Well, clearly it's working. Is it working as we would like it? Potentially, no. So, if I stop that just for a minute, and I think we can compare this to my old technique, which, if I close the valve like this, we'll just see whether we can prove whether it's the air getting past the thread. So, it's a simple way to do this. Open the valve, press down, close the valve, let up. Open the valve, press down, close the valve, let it up. Open the valve, press down, close the valve, let up. Open the valve, press down, close the valve, let up. Okay, I don't know whether you can see this, but to my mind this is coming through clear. Okay, so what I'm thinking is I need to create an air seal underneath this bleed valve. So I've put the cover back onto the reservoir to effectively create a bit of a vacuum. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to unscrew this bleed valve and pack just a little bit of grease underneath onto the threads, and then screw it back down again. And that might be just enough, the grease on the threads, to actually stop the air from leaking in. Let's give it a go. Right, I put a little cloth here as well, just to protect the bike from any fluids that might spill at this point. So, undoing the bleed valve. Open it up a little bit. That's probably enough. I don't need an awful lot. I'm going to shove some grease in there. Plaster it all around. Right, close down that valve again, like that. Give it a wipe. I'm going to shut the valve. Right, let's set it all up again and see whether in fact we can stop the air coming out. Got a vacuum, got fluids opening up. Do you know what? That's clear of air. Well, there we are. That's how to use one of these vacuum pumps to bleed your brakes. Hopefully you enjoyed that video. What do I think of the kit? Well, for the money, very, very good. However, these adapters to go on the bleed valves didn't fit at all. I had to push the pipe straight on. Never mind, £12, still a good kit. Anyway, hopefully you found this video interesting. If you did, give me a thumbs up, leave a comment. Think about subscribing as well. I do these occasional videos where stuff needs fixing or something takes my interest. Anyway, what did I learn from this? Well, this vacuum system is definitely flawed. It draws a lot of air in past the threads of the bleed valve. And what I found is that if you can coat the threads with either brake fluid or grease, and remember, just loosening off that the bleed valve in order to get the grease in, it also coated those threads with brake fluid as well, and that did make a difference. You can greatly reduce the amount of micro bubbles that are being sucked in. Yes, they do, there's still bubbles that come in, but to make life easy to bleed your brakes, this is quite a good method. And what you could do, if you didn't want to mess with taking out the bleed valve and coating the threads and so on, is you could use one of these vacuum pumps to get most of the job done. When you're flushing the fluid, just keep flushing, and then at the end, just go back to the old method of open the valve, press the brake pedal, close the valve, lift the brake pedal like that. Remember though, whenever you're doing any of these methods, make sure your reservoir is always topped up. Anyway, that's it for now. All the best, and I'll catch you on the next one. Bye for now.